Y'all, there are a lot of new metal albums this week. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, JonBarbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we got new metal albums upon us, and I'm bringing you my 5 favorite. But as is customary, before we jump into the top 5, let's talk about the big album releases of the week. And there's a lot of them. So we don't have time to waste. First up, we got a new record from Cradle of Filth called The Screaming of the Valkyries. And all I got to say about this is, where's my Ed Sheeran collab? Next up, there's a new record from Bloodywood called New Delhi. Now, it's well documented that I don't like it when people mix rap with metal because I've yet to hear it done well. But I do like the drums on this. The Indian drums make this interesting. And there's a new record from Lordi called Limited Dead Issue, or basically European Gwar, but shout out to this record because there's a power ballad about a cursed collectible figurine. And one of my favorite new bands, Spirit World, has a new record called Hell Dorado. Just put a cowboy hat on a skull and there you go. And there's a new record from Disharmonia Mundi called The Dormant Stranger. This is very mellow death. And lastly, before we jump into the top 5, a new record from Imperial Triumvirate called Gold Star. If you like it weird and brutal, like I like it weird and brutal, this is the one, y'all. Coming in at number 5, Corpus Offal with their self-titled LP, is death metal out of Texas. And some of you might remember this band called Cerebral Rot. Well, half of those dudes, they got some other dudes, and they went on to form this band. And I actually reviewed their 2024 demo for Metal Digest, and in that I basically said, yeah, it reminds me of Cerebral Rot, but a little bit different, which is to be expected when you take half the people from that band, add in 2 new people. Yeah, it'll sound familiar, but also a little bit different. Well, this sounds like some growth from that. It still has that murky death metal sound to it. It still feels like you're in some fetid bog somewhere littered with decaying corpses, but now they're adding atmospheric, trance-inducing vamping to the mix. It's kind of like adding fog and weather effects to this already unsettling environment. Coming in at number 4. Now y'all help me with this one. Text is on the screen. Is it Nazgul? It's spelled N-Z-G-L. I'm assuming that this is a clever way to call themselves Nazgul. This is Tales from the Pale Moon and Other Stories, black metal out of France. Why I love this one is because it's full of surprises. When you fire this one up, right away you'll notice that there's male and female vocals, but they're not doing that Beauty and the Beast thing where she sings nice and pretty and then he growls. No, they both growl. She sounds to me like Luna Vachon. If you're old like me, then you'll remember she was the manager for Shawn Michaels and Macho Man Randy Savage. That's what she sounds like to me.
You're gonna be mine! I'm gonna be on you like black on inner tube!
Shut up!
No!
That's
Not
good enough!
now!
We're gonna
I'm not-
get you!
But yeah, they trade off. No Beauty and the Beast thing, but they do harmonies, harsh harmonies, which is very cool to hear, harsh vocal harmonies. But then the black metal will just transition and it'll give you other, like, more musical surprises. Suddenly, there's this ripping guitar solo and really cool funky bass going on underneath it. I'm like, where'd that come from? I love it when bands do stuff like that. Coming in at number 3. Aversed with Erasure of Color, progressive metal out of Boston. I like that this band shows glimpses and flashes of technicality. So you can tell that these are really good players, but for the most part, they focus on the main motif of the song. They double down on the riff. So you hear subtle glimpses that let you know, oh yeah, these guys have chops. But for the most part, by being laser focused on the riff, it creates this thickness, which makes it heavier. And then the vocalist has that Beauty and the Beast approach. She can do the clean, gothic, crooning singing and also deep gutturals, but she's doing it all on her own. So between the band's technicality and her variety, they are able to create a lot of different moods and atmospheres. So the whole thing is fresh from beginning to end. This is one of those bands where you hear them and you think, why aren't they bigger? So I'm really hoping that Erasure of Color is going to push them along on that ascent. Coming in at number 2, Cabal. Everything Rots Deathcore out of Denmark. Now, while all of their deathcore peers are trying to get as technical as they can, they're playing In Flames riffs at 400 BPM, and they're in an arms race for who can make the gnarliest animal sounds. Cabal keeps it simple. Matter of fact, the core in deathcore is much more pronounced. There's a very hardcore approach to this band. You'll notice those hardcore riffs right away, but they differentiate a little bit with some industrial elements. One complaint I do have is if you've listened to a lot of hardcore, you're pretty familiar with that tool chest of chugs that's available to hardcore bands. They use those a lot, so you get a lot of very similar chugs. I would like for this band to do even more of the industrial stuff that they do to just help differentiate themselves further. But with that said, I love how they keep it simple. I love how the hardcore is back in here. There's basically no hardcore that you can hear in any of the modern deathcore anymore, except for this band. This band still sounds hardcore, and the simplicity makes it heavier. I don't have to wait for the breakdown for the heavy part. Why is there a heavy part? This music comes from death metal. It should all be heavy, right? Cabal, all heavy. And hey, I'm not about to hawk my merch before number 1 like I normally do, because today's a special day, y'all, and I just want to celebrate with you guys. That's right. Today, as I'm recording this, it was this morning, but you get what I mean. We broke 20,000 subscribers on Heavy Metal Philosophy, and I'm very happy about that. So I just want to thank all of you guys, the ones that have been here since the beginning, since I was trying to get 666 subscribers. Big thank you. All of you new ones that helped push me over the edge. Big thank you. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, As the World Dies with Nebula, progressive death metal out of England. Now, a lot of times, if I say the words progressive death metal, you might think Opeth, you might think Rivers of Nile, but don't think that here. Think more ulcerate. You know, what makes this band progressive is not that they have non-traditional instruments. There's very little in the way of synths. There's no saxophones. There's no like 70s genre blending. It's straight up death metal. What makes this band progressive is the novel melodies and moody and atmospheric passages, the strange choices that they make. It has angry and harsh vocals, but they're not Cookie Monster false chord screams. They are more declarations of existentialism. So when I say death metal, a lot of people think of more of a legacy genre, but don't think legacy here with this band. This is keeping the genre fresh. All right, as longtime subscribers know, the Dealer's Choice segment allows me to break my own rules and pick things that I normally wouldn't. So this week's Dealer's Choice, I'm picking something that isn't metal at all, but all metalheads will recognize the names I'm about to mention. There is a split EP from Igor Cavalera and Shane Embury. That's right, the former drummer of Sepultura, current drummer of Cavalera, and then Shane from Napalm Death. They got together and they made an ambient, cinematic, noise, drone sort of record. It's called Neon Gods and Own Your Darkness. And yeah, I would not have expected this from them. If you would have told me a long time ago that these two guys would come together and make a split EP, I'd be like, yeah. And then you tell me it's going to be instrumental, cinematic, drone, noise music. I'd have been like, what? Why? But then immediately after thinking about it, I'd have been like, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. You know, you got these pioneers of extreme metal, why shouldn't they just keep exploring other territories? And if you're going to do something different, do something different. This is definitely different. Check it out. And we're not done yet. We still got the album art of the week. My favorite album art this week comes from Kazea with I Ancestral. And this is neo-folky, sludgy metal out of Sweden. But check this album art. I dig this because it's making me ask questions. And this might be one of those times where it's not that deep, bro. But the first thing I think about when I see this is that the Messiah? Because I see the crown of thorns. But then the Messiah is faceless because of the shroud. What does that mean? What are they saying here? I would see this in the record store and I would ask those same questions. I love album art like that. And I gotta be honest with you, when I looked at all the album art from this week, it was all very much stereotypical heavy metal album art, a bunch of decaying corpses in a dungeon, a bunch of castles, a bunch of monsters, same. This one really stood out. And that's why it's the album art of the week. Plus the music's pretty cool too. Now, before we go, I have a little milestone I want to tell you about. Do y'all remember a few weeks ago when I told you that YouTube had opened up this affiliate program for me and I decided to experiment with it? Well, YouTube is telling me that I am this far away from a bonus for sales in March. Has to be done by the end of March. I think they must have done this as like a pilot program to try to get people on board. So they were like incentivizing those of us in it to make so many sales. I'm this close from getting a bonus. So let me tell you something. All right. I need one more person to buy a thing of protein powder and YouTube's going to give me a bonus. I'm right there on the verge of that. Now, let me tell y'all, NutriCost does not sponsor this show. I've never spoken to anybody from that company. This is all a feature of YouTube's new program, but I chose this of all the products that are in the program to use because this is the protein powder that I've been using for years. That's why I've got a tin in my house already. I've been using this longer than before I started Heavy Metal Philosophy. And the reason why I chose this brand over others is because in my search for the best protein powder, I was looking for a few factors. I wanted it to be whey protein isolate. Isolate was important to me. And I wanted it to have the least amount of ingredients possible. I didn't want all those chemicals and stuff. And I was trying to get it cheap. Now it's like a triangle, taste good, high quality, low ingredients, and price. And you can't really get cheap, taste good, and low ingredients all in one. You have to sort of find the sweet spot. And to me, this is the sweet spot, the most bang for the buck. It's less than $1 per scoop, the lowest amount of ingredients, and it tastes all right. Chocolate, peanut butter. You can't really go wrong there. Mix it in milk, listen to metal in the gym, you will get gains. Now, I get it. Not everybody works out. It's cool. I just need one more person to buy some protein powder. I really appreciate it. But the best and most important thing you can do to help out the show is watch to the end. And if you like any of these bands, hit the like button. You're here at the end, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.